WIBTA for dumping my girlfriend after she ignored my calls and messages and went clubbing while I was undergoing emergency surgery. Story 1. I, 22M, and my girlfriend, 22F, have been together for 5 years. We've been together since high school, and until recently I've always considered her to be my future wife. I've even bought a ring and was planning on proposing over the coming months. Well, last weekend it was my girlfriend's best friend's birthday. She and her friends booked a private lounge at a club. Obviously I didn't go since 1, I wasn't invited, and 2, I hate clubbing or anything associated with that. I was actually looking forward to spending an evening alone and just binging Netflix or something. Well, my GF left around 9 p.m. and I just crashed on the couch and watched some YouTube. Well, around 11 p.m. I started to feel this distinct stomach pain. The same pain you experience when someone hits you in the nuts. It wasn't bad at first, and I just thought my body was playing some tricks on me, but in the span of about 5 minutes, the pain just kept getting worse until I was basically stuck in the fetal position on the couch. Again, initially, I just thought the pain would go, but then I pulled down my pants, and it felt like my right testicle was starting to swell. The moment I tried to get up and grab my phone to inspect whatever the FEK was happening to me, I just collapsed to the floor. That was probably the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. Imagine being pelted in the nuts over and over again. I did manage to crawl to the table next to the couch to get my phone. I immediately tried calling my GF, but she declined my call. I then texted her that something was wrong and she could come home immediately. The club she went to is like a 5-minute walk from our apartment. I just put the phone down and started throwing up because of the pain. After throwing up for like a minute, it felt like the pain started to cool down a bit, and I grabbed my phone again, and that's when I saw her response. She just replied with a "What is it?" I tried calling her again, but as expected, she just declined again. I then texted her that I need to go to the hospital now. She then asked for what, and I just replied with "My balls hurt." I then just dialed for emergency services. I explained my situation to the emergency responder, and she asked if there was somebody that could drive me to the hospital, and I stupidly said yes. I thought my GF would be home soon, and she would drive me to the hospital. I felt embarrassed to call an ambulance because my balls hurt after I told the emergency responder this. She then told me that she would call me again in 10 minutes to make sure I was being driven to the hospital. I then put down the phone and went back to vomiting on our carpet. Again, after the pain went away for a bit, I checked my phone and saw that my GF just responded with laughing emojis. I again tried to call her, but as expected, she just declined again. She texted me that this wasn't the time to play games, and she then told me that if I texted or called her again, she would block my number. I again tried calling her, but she declined again, and when I tried calling her a second time, I realized she actually blocked me. I went back to curling up on the floor, and now I started shivering. At this point, I didn't care about being embarrassed and just called emergency services again and asked for an ambulance. It felt like an eternity, but the ambulance eventually came and rushed me to the hospital. I don't remember much of surgery since I was sedated, but I remember waking up eventually, and my right testicle was being stitched together. The doctor informed me that I had a testicular torsion, and I was extremely lucky to reach the hospital in time. I could have easily been forced to surgically remove my testicle. I checked my phone and saw the missed calls and messages my GF left me. In summary, she came home from clubbing and smelled the vomit in our apartment. When she saw the vomit on our carpet, she got mad and tried searching the apartment to find me. When she realized I wasn't there, only then did it hit her that I was actually being serious. I just texted her in which hospital I was staying in, and my room number, then went to sleep. I woke up the next morning and saw my GF sleeping on a couch next to my bed. After she woke up, she started bombarding me with apologies. She thought I was joking, that I was trying to ruin their night, etc. I didn't have the energy to argue, so I just kept quiet. I was beyond hurt by what she did, and I wanted to break up with her then and there. Why the FK would somebody ignore messages where their partner is begging them to come home? Not only that, she stayed in the club until 3 a.m. and didn't even consider going home to check on me. She did stay with me in the hospital for the remaining 2 days I was admitted there and did take good care of me, but I was still beyond pissed at her. Ever since coming home yesterday, I've been wanting to dump her, but at the same time, I feel like she genuinely thought I was joking and made a mistake. I feel conflicted and don't know how to proceed in this situation. WIBTA, if I dumped her? Am I overreacting? How would you guys navigate this mess? Our advice. First off, I'm really sorry you had to go through such a terrifying experience, especially without the support you expected from your girlfriend. Your feelings of hurt and betrayal are completely valid. Now, as for whether you would be the asshole WIBTA for breaking up with her, it's a complex situation. On one hand, her behavior was incredibly callous and insensitive. Ignoring your distress calls and messages, especially when you were in such severe pain and needed urgent medical attention, is a serious breach of trust and empathy. Her initial reaction, dismissing your situation as a joke and continuing to enjoy her night out, is deeply troubling. However, it's also worth considering her perspective. It seems she genuinely believed you were kidding, which may indicate a lack of awareness or understanding of the severity of the situation. It's possible she was caught up in the celebration and didn't grasp the gravity of your messages until she returned home and saw the state of the apartment. Her subsequent apologies and care for you in the hospital suggest remorse and concern for your well-being. Ultimately, whether you choose to stay with her or end the relationship is a personal decision. It's important to weigh the entirety of your relationship, including this incident, and determine if you can move past it together. If you believe her actions were a one-time mistake and you still see a future with her, communication and possibly couples therapy could help rebuild trust and address any underlying issues. However, if you feel unable to forgive her, or if this incident is indicative of deeper problems in the relationship, it may be healthier for both of you to part ways. You're not overreacting by feeling hurt and considering ending the relationship. Your emotions are valid, and it's important to prioritize your own well-being and happiness. Take some time to reflect on what you need and want moving forward, and don't hesitate to seek support from trusted friends or family members. First comment. Homie. Unless you have a history of making bogus calls and texts to ruin her fun, why the FKK would she think you were doing that? My wife fell and tore her hamstring when I was 2 hours away on a site visit for work. When she called, I told the customer gotta go. We'll pick this up next week. Family emergency. And they said get going. Luckily her friend came and took her to the hospital and I met them there, but I can't imagine interrogating her to make sure it was important. That feeling in your gut you're having that she's not the one ... The 5 years between 17 and 22 is a big 5 years. You'll change more in those years than any other 5 years in your life. Who is she at this point? She's someone that selfishly thought her boyfriend would call and troll her with, I need to go to the hospital when she was having fun. So like I said, unless you have a history of this behavior, then this wasn't a misunderstanding. This is who she is. This is who she'll continue to be. Think about this. When she was at the club, a short walk from your house, not one of her friends said, yeah, you might want to pop out and go check on him. He's not the type to complain. Who we surround ourselves with says a lot about us, and your girlfriend surrounded herself with friends that most likely told her, FEK him, he's just trying to ruin your fun. And she agreed. Her being sorry now is worth nothing. She wasn't there when you needed her, and I bet if I asked you to name a few occasions where you were there for her, no questions asked, you'd have a list ready pretty quickly. Is this who you want having your back ... forever? I know emotions are strong and can be tough to regulate at your age, but you sound decently mature. That bell ringing in the back of your head, we usually regret not listening to it. The fact that she didn't Usain Bolt down the block to check on you is FK up. Second comment. Dega. In the comments he has admitted that he has pranked her many times over the years. He won't say how often. His response to that question being asked repeatedly was something like we've been together 5 years, or detail a list of his pranks. He said they were just silly jokes and won't say what any of the pranks were aside from putting bracelets he bought for her in a packet of chips. We don't know what types of pranks he has a history of. We don't know how often he pranks her. We don't know if he has a history of trying to get her to come home when she's out. He did say he's never pretended to be in danger or have a medical emergency before. I think this was important information that should have been in the main post, along with a list of pranks and how often he does them, and whether he's ever tried to either get her to come home before when she's out or pranked her while she's out before. The fact that he's so resistant to discussing it and so defensive about it speaks volumes. I think he will break up with her no matter what. That's his prerogative, and I totally understand it, that he is resistant to and angry about other points of view, and extremely defensive about any of his own behavior that may have led here. Meaning he doesn't actually want a real response, he just wants support and validation. This is a shining example of why pranks in relationships are stupid. Unless it's the level of, occasionally squirting your so with a bit of water or something. If he is constantly pranking her and potentially also has ruined her nights out before the moving to blocking him absolutely stinks to high heaven of missing reasons, I can see why she would think my balls hurt was another prank. She still effed up. She should have answered the phone or gone somewhere quiet and called him back. Gotten one of her friends to walk back with her to check on him even. It's pretty inexcusable to let that many calls from your so slide, especially when the hospital is mentioned. However, I don't see how she could have driven him to the hospital. In any case, she'd been drinking, and Op should learn to call emergency services immediately in an emergency. I think the relationship is probably done, and that both partners messed up and he could have paid very seriously for that. I'm not surprised he is hurt and angry. I think anyone would be in this scenario. However, I think he needs to look harder at his own behavior to learn a lesson for future relationships. More update. Edit. Just to clarify. No, I never had an issue with her going out in the first place, or I've ever pulled pranks for her to come home from a night out. And BTTU, thank you guys so much for the support. I'm beyond blown away.